Hello, everyone. It's Tuesday night, and you're riding with the road crew, and welcome to another episode of the Token and Hobbs Show. Minus Hobbs, plus producer Ben. What's up, Ben?
Hey, not much. Just doing my evening cigar and whiskey that I do after my council meetings.
Yeah, that's great.
My little stress reliever.
That's good. We can all use a little stress reliever these days. We're waiting for Hobbs to restart his Bronze Age computer right now, so hopefully he'll get that sorted out soon, and he can join us on the rest of the show. But we wanted to start this week talking about the new nominee for the Libertarian Party who's going to be running for president as a Libertarian this November. And since I wasn't masochistic enough to sit through hours and hours and hours of this stupid Zoom meeting that the Libertarian Party decided to put on, and you were, then I figured, hey, let's bring Ben on here to talk about this for a bit, because what a bizarre thing that whole experience was. I watched a little bit of it.
Right.
What was it, Saturday night? Yeah, I watched a little bit of the Saturday night stuff, and it was hilarious for the short half hour I watched. I can't imagine sitting through that.
Yeah, and it was almost like a real convention, but the drinks were cheaper, and I didn't have to pay to go see anybody topless.
Yeah, I mean,
no, I'm just kidding.
You mean to tell me there's nobody topless on the freaking on the Zoom meeting?
Yeah, the only tits I saw during convention were ones that I wanted to see, not James Weeks.
Well, no dildo waivers.
Yeah, they didn't pull anything off. I mean, really, the only goofy things going on was people with hot mics yelling at their spouses to close doors or yelling at their pets. But I actually thought it went really.
Alabama delegation threatening to feed people to alligators.
Yeah, Alabama, there's something else. It went really well for all the things that could have gone wrong. I'm curious to see aren't the Democrats doing an online convention?
I mean, they've got many more thousands of delegates that go to their conventions than ours. So they fill a stadium up for the Democratic and Republican conventions. We just fill a convention hall.
Yeah, so, and people hate on Nick, but he did fine, I thought. He showed a little chair's privilege. They had a sidebar up there where people could get up to the queue to talk, and he was kind of pretty picky on who he'd let talk, but he had the power to do that.
That's the thing about it. I couldn't imagine this thing going well. I mean, for one thing, it's an all volunteer party, right? There's very few paid professionals that work in the LP. It's right. Runs mostly on volunteer work. So there's that. Secondly, we've never tried to do anything like this, right? Having these thousands of people on a freaking Zoom meeting to nominate a presidential candidate and do all that stuff. I mean, there was the whole first day was just spent setting the agenda. They couldn't even agree on what type of agenda they wanted. So they spent all day Friday doing that. I'd pop in every once in a while to see how it's going. It's like, yep, they're still arguing on that stuff. So, and then the presidential election, that went to, 4 rounds, I think it was. 4 or 5 rounds, and that actually went pretty smooth. I don't know how people are going to claim there might be shenanigans. They had double and triplicate checks on everything. I mean, it was. I don't see. Here's what did you guys do all day Sunday? Because that meeting started at 10 a.m. Central, and the voting wrapped up around.
Well,
10
Sunday.
PM.
Sunday, I didn't watch as much of it as I could stomach because it descended into chaos. Because, like I said, when they set the agenda, they determined that they would have an adjournment, and then people tried to finagle it so that they would have the full convention right there. and then people tried to change it on where the location would be, and Nick got pissed off and handed the gavel off. And you'll remember that's when James Weeks happened. But Alex Merced didn't do too bad. Really, the only thing they had to do to shut the whole thing down was call orders of the day, which means we're getting off the agenda and we need to move to the agenda items, and all that could have been avoided.
So let's talk about the actual candidate that they ended up nominating, and I was pretty surprised.
Why? Who did you think was going to get it?
I thought it was going to be Hornberger or Supreme. Right?
Well, here's the problem with Hornberger. The Mises Caucus is very divisive. So it's not like, it seems like with the Mises Caucus, you either love them or hate them. There's no middle ground. So, and when that's your candidate, it's kind of hard to gain votes.
Well, see, that's the thing he was a lot of people's favorites, but he was nobody's second favorite. Right? So as candidates started dropping out, right? Hornberger didn't go up at all. Supreme didn't go up at all. Gray was eliminated early. And then Jorgensen seemed to be everyone's second favorite.
Well, and I thought Joe was going to win it. And I said Vermin was going to be second for most of the rounds. And Vermin, he hardly, I think from first round to last round, he gained 20 votes maybe. So, yeah. And Vermin's kind of in the same boat as Hornberger, though. You either love him or hate him if you're a libertarian.
Yeah, and everybody that liked Hornberger and Supreme voted for them first round and kept voting for them, right? But they didn't pick up any votes as they went along, right? It seemed like Jorgensen, she got a lot of people's second, third, fourth ballots. The guys were, I supported Gray or Mons or whoever.
Mons was a surprise. I thought Gray would have had more people. I think a lot of the people that like Gray, and there was that whole, what did he get? The whole jury nullification dust up. I think a lot of people ditched him and went to Mons.
Yeah. Gray didn't have a very good debate showing. Was his problem. He showed up too late, right? He had a bad debate performance, and he didn't have any time to make up for that. Right?
And he was running on the "I'm going to win it" platform. He had a chance to win it, and I don't know about you, but I have no delusions that a libertarian's going to win the presidential election.
I mean, no, they're not. I mean, I like candidates talking about winning. I don't like coming out of having a candidate like, oh, I already know I'm going to lose, so fuck it, right? I don't like that. Like McAfee,
that's kind of the Vermin Supreme strategy too. Vermin's kind of like that.
Well, Vermin knows he's not going to win, and he wouldn't want to win anyway because he understands that he's satire. But his strategy is more to just be funny and get attention, right? As opposed to like McAfee 4 years ago, he'd probably get attention, but he's not getting funny haha attention. He's getting, who the fuck is this guy talking about fucking whales attention?
Well, and I understood why people supported Vermin, and if he would have won the nomination, I'd be like, okay, well, that's the direction they want to go after, that disenfranchised youth vote. If Gray had won, I would have understood that, but I didn't think Gray was going to win it. And I kind of had Joe picked anyways.
Joe surprised me because I've met her a couple times now. I've seen her debate in person. She's a very nice person, but the one thing I always thought she was lacking in was the charisma department. She's not very lively. She's not very charismatic.
Somebody brought up identity politics here in the chat.
Yeah, Michael goes, the female candidate will work all right in the identity politics part of recent elections. I don't think that's why she was picked, right? I know a lot of people are playing that up now, but that's not why she was picked in the moment. Because if that's the reason to pick, they would have picked Mons or Armstrong as VP. right?
For identity politics?
If the delegates were thinking identity politics while picking the nominees, then her or Mons would have been the obvious presidential candidate, but then Armstrong or Mons would have been the obvious VP.
Yeah, that's the
right?
identity politics power team would have been Joe Jorgensen and John Mons, which I would have been fine with that too.
Yeah, I don't know enough about Spike Cohen to say yay or nay about him. I know he runs the Muddied Waters podcast.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, we're all qualified to be national candidates at this point, aren't we?
I mean, you at least have been elected.
We're podcasters. I mean, we're podcasters. We're Libertarian Party. We're qualified then, right?
Well, yeah.
I don't know what. I didn't know shit about him. I just knew he was. I knew he was Vermin's VP pick, and he had a picture with his nipples out. That's about all I knew.
See, a lot of people were endorsing him, right? And it was kind of upsetting to me to see Larry Sharp say that he would only run under Judge Gray. That's
part of the reason why I didn't know anything about him, because I didn't bother looking at their VP candidates because Larry Sharp was there. So I know he'd kind of hinted that that's what he's going to do. He's going to drop out if Gray didn't get it, but I wasn't sure he was going to follow through on it. I thought it might have just been a little teaser to get people to vote for Gray, but yeah, he was out.
Yeah, and that's a disappointment because Larry Sharp would have been a great vice presidential candidate. You know, because like you said, the vice presidential candidate is just the presidential candidate's hype man, and Larry Sharp would be absolutely fantastic at that job.
Well, right? And I mean, maybe Spike will be too. If anything, a podcaster can be a hype man and handle media stuff.
I'm not gonna talk ill about the guy because I honestly don't know enough about Spike to say anything about him. We're gonna have to try to get him on the show to hash this out. But as for Joe, I was surprised that she got it. I mean,
what do you say negative about her? I mean,
it's the charisma thing. She lacks charisma and fire, and that's one of the things that a libertarian candidate especially needs. I saw a lot of people being like, "Oh, like you need charisma to be president." Like she's not gonna be president though,
right?
She's the Libertarian Party candidate. Her job is to hype the party and get people excited about the party and the philosophy and get them to convince them to break their two-party habits and vote for a third party. A certain level of charisma is necessary for that.
Well, and I think the strategy with Joe, though, I think the strategy will be they'll say, "Well, who's this?
All right,
she seems nice." Oh, hey. They'll say, "Who's this? She seems nice." They'll go look at her page maybe, and then look at the platform, and that's her hook. So, I mean, it's hard to think of anything negative about her.
No, there's not a lot negative about it.
I went to supper with her.
Yeah, she's just not an exciting candidate. Didn't your wife say that she was too nice to get the nomination?
No, I told my wife that. We went to supper with her. You. Yeah, and talked with her for a while. And, she came. Did you go to the Mixer after the Libertarian Party Nebraska convention?
No, I had to go straight home.
So she came out and had some drinks with people. And that's, I heard a couple other people say, they're like, I like her, but she's just too nice to get the nomination. But I mean, great. Maybe nice works in the Libertarian Party.
That's probably what got it to her, though, right? Because she was better well-known than Mons, so that's how she beat him out. Judge Gray stepped out in the debate with the whole jury nullification thing, and Hornberger went negative, right? And Vermin was always too much of a joke candidate to get the nomination. I never thought that he would actually get it. I figured he'd come in second because, his supporters really like him, and they'll vote for him.
Well, and I guess Hornberger went a little negative. I didn't catch when he did, but I heard a couple people say that he went negative and it turned people off. Did you catch any of his negative spots? Or
I didn't watch the last debate, but I did in previous debates. I had heard him go after other candidates, and I mean, this is a weird topsy-turvy election cycle anyway, because we at one point we had Bill Weld, who was going to be the presumptive nominee. He dropped out to run as a Republican against Trump, like 1% in Iowa or some minuscule number like that. Then we had Lincoln Chafee jump in the mix, and that was a disaster from the very get-go. Because Lincoln Chafee is probably the worst communicator we had running for president. Just awful. The guy couldn't communicate.
I think this nomination shows that libertarians are done with the has-been's kind of harsh, but we're done with the has-been politicians that come over and run, maybe. And maybe Amash picked up on that, so that's why he dropped out. He's gonna get some libertarian street cred.
Because maybe because here's the thing: if Amash had stayed in and lost, that would have been humiliating for him.
I think he would have lost.
Yeah, well, I don't know if he would have lost, but it certainly was more of a possibility. It was enough of a possibility that he probably said, "I'm not going to take that chance," and decided not to run.
Well, it might also have been kind of a strategic thing, not necessarily for his own political career in the LP, but more for the LP as a whole. You know, when he announced that he was going to be running as a libertarian for president, he suddenly got a ton of media exposure. National said that they signed up something like 2,000 or 3,000 new members, just like basically overnight when Amash announced that he was. So he probably, definitely, obviously knew that he wasn't going to get anywhere in this election cycle, but that media exposure that he gave to the party as a whole is going to help whoever got the nomination moving forward.
Well, and here's the thing: I don't think Gary Johnson type, or even Gary Johnson, I don't think he could have won. Say Gary Johnson ran again, I don't think he could have won this nomination, because the Libertarian Party's got big enough, and I don't know if enough people know this, but Johnson in 2012 or 2016, sorry, he front-loaded a lot of delegations with his own people, because so many delegations didn't have full delegations. Does that make sense? Like, so he came in, bought tickets for people, greased some palms, and poof, there's a bunch of Gary Johnson people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that time is past. So you have to be an actual libertarian now to make it through.
Right.
I mean,
But there are no real libertarians. So.
No, there's no
except
such
for
thing.
me.
Yeah.
I'm
Joe was the vice presidential candidate in 96, wasn't she?
Yeah, I felt bad. I even told her this. I forgot. She was the first VP candidate I voted for. I forgot, though, in 96.
Well, I mean, you can be forgiven for forgetting the vice presidential candidate, right? I mean, who was the vice presidential candidate for? I was about to say John McCain, but I think we all remember Sarah Palin. That was for I don't know, for Kerry. I mean,
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
The losing vice presidential candidates, no one remembers who they were, especially if they're a third party. I mean, I barely remember that Jim Gray was vice presidential candidate for Gary Johnson the first time around.
Yeah, but it also just kind of goes to show that Joe isn't one of these people that just kind of come out of nowhere, you know, either like from another political party or just, you know, is just a nobody. You know, she's been with the party for a long time. She's kind of a behind the scenes mover and shaker, and now it's her time to shine, apparently. And with some of the things that either she or her social media team has been putting out there on Twitter, man, it's perking up a lot of ears.
Oh, we got to talk about this. Have you guys seen the "I'm with her" hashtag on Twitter since she got the nomination? Oh my God, the Democratic butthurt is absolutely hilarious. I couldn't stop laughing.
Whoever's idea that was needs an award.
Oh my God, that was the absolute best. To just taking the "I'm with her" hashtag and applying it to George Jorgensen and seeing all these hilarious points, like, no, you can't steal the hashtag. That's hilarious. Like,
yeah. So apparently Democrats can determine if you're black or a woman now. So
yeah, and they own hashtags too. So that's a thing. So, well, I'm glad you brought that. I think we talked enough about Joe's nomination. We got a little something from Joe Biden here that I wanted to play for everybody. So this is one of the downsides of doing this show once a week, that by the time Tuesday comes around, some of these stories are a few days old, right? But I couldn't let this go without talking about it. Absolutely not. This Joe Biden has apparently gained the superpower to decide who is and who is not black. I didn't realize. Here's the thing. I thought this was a big no-no for old white men, right? Like, you don't get to decide what black is and what black isn't, but Joe Biden does. So let's take a listen to what he had to say. I only get to play a little bit of this video.
Gotta come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with
like, he wasn't even prompted to say that. Like, nobody asked.
Right.
Why? What the hell are you talking about?
You know what? The thing that boggles my mind about all of this the most is first off is the amount of mental gymnastics that they're going to try and pass this off as no big deal. We knew that they were going to, but just like with all of the gaffes and all of the stupid shit that this guy says on a regular basis, for them to just pass it off as, oh, he was knowingly joking about all of that. It's like, no, he wasn't. He's just saying stupid shit.
See, and even if he was, so what? It's still fucking racist.
That wasn't his only gaffe either. Didn't he say that he was going to beat Joe Biden in November?
A different interview, but yeah, he did say that.
Yeah, he said that at one point.
I think he's right. I mean, Joe Biden is going to beat Joe Biden.
When Joe Biden loses in November, the only person he has to blame is Joe Biden, not Russia, not Joe Jorgensen, not the Libertarian Party. It's just going to be straight up Joe Biden's fault.
So here's the thing, though. I mean, a lot of people are playing this off as a joke, like, he's just kidding. No, I don't think he's kidding. All right, I think this is more Freudian slip than this is a joke.
Yep.
Because this is something that I've taught Democrats honestly and earnestly believed for a long time, right? That blackness, or then don't think for a second this applies only for black people, right? This applies to women, this applies to gays, this applies to Hispanics, this applies to any subgroup that Democrats claim a monopoly over, right? This is any group that they claim to be theirs. If you aren't on their team, you don't belong to that subgroup. Right. They see race not as, something to do with generics, but as a cultural or social group to belong to. Right. Like blackness or gayness or Hispanicness or whatever you want to say. Those aren't, groups based on your actions or your genetics or whatever the case may be. Those are groups based on your willingness to capitulate to democratic whims. And the more you're willing to just go along with them, then the more black you are, the more Hispanic you are. And God forbid you stray away from there, then you no longer belong to that social group. And that's what they really care. It's the social group that they want to ostracize you from, if you don't go along with their political ideologies.
Right.
Like for me, for example, I'm Hispanic, right? But I don't live in a Hispanic social group, right? I don't rely on a Hispanic social group in my day-to-day life. I hardly know any other Puerto Ricans outside my immediate family. So Puerto Ricans start saying, he's not a real Puerto Rican. He votes for Libertarians. Like, I don't give a fuck about you. I don't even know you. Why do I care if I don't belong in your social group, right? You don't own me. I think for myself, I'm my own individual. But someone who is like entrenched in like a black man or black woman is entrenched in a black social group, being ostracized from it because of politics, or Hispanics, it could be the same way. or in the gay community, it can be the same way. If you don't go along with the herd mentality, especially when it comes to politics, and you get so ostracized from that group, you could lose your blackness or your gayness or your Hispanicness, right? You're no longer part. You've been ostracized from that social group, and that's what Joe Biden is really talking about here.
And I can't see the note, so I don't know if it's too early for a segue or where it's at. But maybe that poor bastard that got choked should have just yelled he wasn't voting for Joe Biden, and they would have let him up.
Yeah,
I want to bring
poor taste, but yeah, the whole I know it's kind of overplayed at this point to compare everything I don't like as fascism, but in a way the sort of entitlement that the lefties have towards, the blacks belong to us and the Hispanics belong to us just by virtue of them being, having these immutable personal characteristics, it really kind of falls into that Mussolini vein of fascism, where everything within the state and nothing outside of it, where your identity is tied to your politics, not necessarily your genetics. And it's just sort of a weird entitlement, and that they think that that these votes belong to them because reasons.
Yeah, they really do claim a monopoly over this kind of stuff, and it's pretty pathetic. It's pretty sad. It's fucking infuriating, is what it is.
Well, they're trying to turn every minority community like the Native American communities. They're completely dependent on the government, can't do shit for themselves because they've been provided for so long, and then they get to a point where they don't have to do shit anymore because they think they're guaranteed those votes.
It's that soft bigotry of low expectations that you hear a lot. They like to infantilize minorities and people who belong in groups that they think belong to them. Oh, you're just the poor Hispanics. You need our help. We need to help you out. You need to vote for us, though. Oh, you're not going to vote for us? You're not really Hispanic. You're not really black. You're not really gay. You're a traitor to your people.
Yep.
Nah, man. I'm not about that shit. That's I don't buy that. I don't go for that. That's a bunch of nonsense as far as I'm concerned. So we got a little bit more we got to talk about this week. It seems like we can't go a week without some black man or woman getting shot unjustly. Last week we talked about a case where a woman was shot and killed in her own apartment by police conducting a no-knock raid, and just today we had another video come out from Minneapolis of a police officer kneeling on the neck of a black man until he was killed. Now, I've watched the video. It is incredibly disturbing. The story goes that they were called out because of a possible forgery, right? Apparently there was a forgery in progress. I'm not entirely sure how that works, but that's why they were there. And they went to arrest this man. I think his name was George Taylor. The story goes, and there's no video of this. The story goes that he was possibly under the influence of something. What isn't entirely clear, and apparently resisting arrest. Although I've yet to see video of that happening. So you at first you see some surveillance video from the shop outside where this is happening, and then there's like a gap in the video, and then the next time you see a video, it's people taking it on their cell phones, right? So they got the guy in handcuffs. He's on the floor, and one of the police is like doing crowd control, and another one is kneeling on this dude's neck. So I'm gonna play some of the video for you guys so you can see. I'll skip ahead.
His whole nose is
I fought with him. Bro, but why you just sitting there? He ain't doing nothing now. Put him in the car.
I How long y'all gotta hold him down?
So they got the guy on the ground. He's subdued. He's not going anywhere.
He is human, bro.
But you can tell he's having trouble breathing. He's having a very hard time there. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit.
Like right on his carotid artery too.
And then at some point, because this goes on for like almost 10 minutes, and the guy is slowly losing consciousness. He's moving a lot less. He's talking a lot less. And at some point, he just passes out completely, right? And you would think at this point, the police officer with his knee on the dude's neck would be like, oh, he's passed out. I should probably let him breathe now. I should probably let up a little bit. But no, he just stays on his neck, right? The dude is literally passed out. He's not moving, and he just stays on his neck until paramedics arrive and sort of drag him onto a stretcher and take him away. I mean, my goodness, you can keep watching it because everyone, the people in the video, they're pointing this out to him. They're pointing out that he's unconscious, he's not breathing.
What is that? What do you think that is? You call
what he's doing
okay?
He's on his neck.
You call what he's doing okay?
And see, here's the thing about it. Here's the thing. I was a cop in the Air Force for 5 years, right? So I was trained in stuff like this. And yes, you can put your knee on someone's neck in order to get their compliance, right? You're supposed to apply some pressure in order to get them to comply with your commands, right? That's the idea. You're not supposed to stay on their neck, though, right? You're not supposed to just sit there cutting off their airways, making it so that they can't breathe. And you're certainly not supposed to keep doing it when they're passed out, right? So I see a lot of people on Facebook. They're going, "Oh, well, it's a procedure that's allowed. You're allowed to put your knee on the guy's neck." And yeah, that's technically true. But here's the thing: they kept it there for 10 minutes, even after he stopped breathing, even after he passed out, even after they could clearly see that this guy could not resist anymore. They got his compliance, right? They achieved what that move is supposed to achieve. And he just kept his knee on the dude's neck until he died. And that is murder. You're not allowed to do that, right? The use of force is supposed to be applied until the individual you're using force on, until whatever they did that caused you to use that force is no longer happening, right?
Well, what option? There wasn't any options for those bystanders either. I mean, okay, you get the cop off the guy, you're assaulting an officer and probably end up shot or something.
Right, but okay, the thing that I don't understand is that I couldn't see the entire video. It's kind of small on my screen, but are his hands handcuffed?
Yes, his hands are handcuffed behind his back. Okay,
then what is the purpose of the knee in the neck? If he's not restrained, then I can maybe understand a maneuver like that where if the guy's a big dude and you're don't have any backup, then yeah, that makes sense. But if you got the guy on the ground, his hands are handcuffed behind his back, that type of a compliance maneuver is completely unnecessary. There is nothing that warrants that. And
you can keep watching the video. I mean, look at it. The guy is passed out.
Bro,
he's not moving.
That's okay.
He's not breathing. Look at him.
Check his
He's a limp body on the ground.
The only thing that would have saved that guy probably is if somebody drew on the cop. If there was somebody who carried there and drew on the cop and got him off. But I mean, that's a gutsy move. That's a big gamble.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems like you got two cops that are in frame right now, and it sounds like there's another cop off camera that's saying, like, I don't need your help. I don't need your help. You can get away from here. So there's at least 3 on the scene right now, and I have read reports that there are 4 cops that were involved in this incident that were fired. Basically, as soon as this came to light, the 4 officers were fired, and charges are pending. So the investigation will come out and it'll show us what we are. And I hate
Hello?
Oh, we lost Hobbs.
Going to go
Oh,
Oh, there he
one
is.
way. Huh?
Hold
What?
up. Say all that again. Start from I hate, because everything after that got cut off.
I said, sorry. I said I hate things like this happening because it brings out that all cops are bastards argument, and I absolutely cannot stand that argument because there's something like 1.5 million police officers, and we get like one of these stories every week, and that's a lot. That's way too many. But this is going to go one of two ways, I think. Either it's going to cause a bit of a step back in the policing community, and they're going to go
Hold
like,
up. I gotta read this real quick. Michael says if he's cuffed and released and he gets up and gets hit by a car, the cop will be responsible for that too. No one said release him. They said get off his neck. Some comment if he gets up, you have him on his chest. He's passed out. He's handcuffed. You do me a favor, get in some handcuffs and lie down on your belly, and then have someone stand over you and see how easy it is to just get up and run. It's not an easy thing to do. Now do that unconscious. Right?
Yeah. So anyway, like I was saying, it's going to go one of two ways. Either the police agencies nationwide, whether prompted by like the Attorney General or the Department of Justice or something, they're going to take a step back and be like, hey, we're losing the public trust, and people are seeing you people more as an occupying force than as public servants who protect and serve. Or the public distrust is going to widen, and we are going to see a deeper embedding of this us versus them mentality in the police force and in the public. And that is going to escalate tensions. And in a country where there's 500 million guns floating around, that's not a good thing to have happen.
Well, weren't you saying, Nathan, they're rioting, or was that you, Hobbs?
Yeah,
They're
they're rioting in Minneapolis, and they overran the precinct building.
Well, that'll get changes.
Blame people for being pissed off at this, because this is a flagrant abuse of power. And you're right. Not every cop is a bastard, but there does seem to be a police mindset where they already think there's an us versus them, right?
And in certain communities, too.
Already have that mindset in them, where I'm the thin blue line, I'm the hero standing against the barbaric hordes coming over the frontier. And if you have to lean on a guy's neck while he slowly dies beneath you, then that's the price you pay for society, I guess. I don't. Here's the thing. This doesn't happen in a culture where there is accountability for actions. Right? For a long time, a lot of police officers have gotten away with a lot of shady shit. And we've talked about a lot of those situations on this show. A few months ago, remember how we talked about that one case out in New Mexico where that cop shot that guy in the hallway and then he got rehired and retired? Yep. That's the kind of shit I'm talking about.
Full $2,500 a month pension.
Right. The only reason that's allowed to happen is a lack of accountability for police officers. And you could see it in these two guys that are in this video, right? They're getting badgered, they're getting harassed, people are calling them names, and I got the very distinct feeling that the guy on the dude's neck was like, well, fuck you guys, I'm not getting off his neck. I'm gonna sit here on his neck all day if I have to, because I'm a cop, and fuck you guys, I'm not gonna do what you want me to. And he would. This is my only interpretation of the video I saw, but that seems very much to be a mindset that a lot of people have, and it's gross. And these police officers better be held accountable for this, because this is not acceptable.
I think they will. There's too much evidence right now that the guy was passed out. The knee in the neck was way longer than it took just to get simple compliance. Everything is on video. I couldn't really tell from the video, but it looks like the cops have body cams too. So you know that all of that evidence is going to come out in discovery. This one, I don't think they're just going to walk with it. And if they do walk or they get a slap on the wrist charge, and especially if something happens like that guy in New Mexico who quietly, very quietly under the table got rehired and then retired with full pension because he had PTSD because he shot a man lying on the floor, then what's going on right now in Minneapolis where they're burning the city down and overrunning the precinct and putting the legit fear of God into those people, that's going to look like a day in the park.
Yeah, I'm just saying that police mindset that a lot of people have, it has to change. It cannot go like that. Like, this was a very blatant abuse of police authority. Very blatant. I don't care if he was resisting arrest. Once you have him in cuffs on the ground, that's no longer an excuse. You can't just keep doing whatever it is you want to do, right? Like, I know I was only a cop in the military. That's not the same thing as being a civilian cop, but the training is the same, right? You use the needed force and no more.
Well,
right?
it's also
Once you have the guy on the ground.
It's kind of gross that military police and military in general have more stringent rules of engagement overseas,
Way more stringent,
with people that are willing to blow themselves up than domestic cops seem to have here stateside, with people who have the same culture, the same background, the same language, everything.
Well,
But
look how some of the cops dress. They dress paramilitary.
Well, I am shocked.
I'll give that one point to the cops because dressing paramilitary is awesome. I don't care. I will take any excuse to get in full kit just for shits and giggles. So, you know, sometimes you just want to feel cool.
I will say that I am shocked the number of times I see these kind of stories where police officers get away with stuff that I would have been in jail for. Because you're right, Hobbs. Military cops are held to a higher standard than this, right? Way higher standard than this. Right? If these guys had been military cops, they'd be in the brig right now. These two guys are on administrative leave. They're still getting paid, right? They haven't been arrested. So yeah, sorry. The military cops do have a higher standard of conduct than civilian police officers do, which is kind of ass backwards. Let's move on to another viral video that's going around today. Have you guys seen this one? The Central Park lady with strangling her dog and calling the police on people. Like, actually, I'm going to pull that down because you actually gave me a screenshot earlier that sheds a little bit of light on this story. I can't read that, so I'm gonna pull it up, and because this is apparently from the guy who filmed the video that we're gonna be seeing here in a second. So here was his Facebook post. For those of you that can't read that on screen, it goes, Central Park this morning. This woman's dog is tearing through the plantings in the ramble. Me, ma'am, dogs in the ramble have to be on a leash at all times. The sign's right there. Her, the dog runs are closed. He needs his exercise. Me, all you have to do is take him to the other side of the drive, outside the ramble, where you can let him run off leash all you want. Her, it's too dangerous. Me, look, if you're going to do what you want, I'm going to do what I want, but you're not going to like it. Her, what's that? Me, to the dog. Come here, puppy. Her, he won't come to you. Me, we'll see about that. And then apparently right after that little conversation, this happened. Please ignore the music.
Please stop. Sir, I'm asking you to stop.
Please don't come close to me.
Sir, I'm asking you to stop recording me.
Please don't come close to me.
Please take your phone out.
Please don't come close to
Can I
me.
take a picture of calling the cops?
Please call the cops. Please call the cops.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Please tell them whatever you like.
Excuse me?
Yeah. So apparently the behind the scenes thing is she didn't have her dog on a leash, and he was going to try and do something with a bag of treats, and I understand that she flipped out at that point because you don't know if those treats are poison or what. And this guy's comments on that that thing was, the very last was, I pull the dog treats out I carry for just such intransigence. I didn't even get a chance to toss any treats to the pooch before Karen scrambled to grab her dog. Don't you touch my dog. And that's when I started video recording with my iPhone, and when her inner Karen fully emerged and took a dark turn.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but I mean, honestly, what this guy's just carrying around poisoned dog treats with him. That's kind of a weird thing to do.
Well, he doesn't have a dog. He's just carrying around dog. He says he carries around a bag of dog treats for intransigence such as this. So
well, that's not entirely unbelievable, because I'm like, I know guys at my work who carry around dog treats with them because they're always pulling, like someone who runs a country trash route carries dog treats with them because these country people, they all have dogs, and some of them are very, very mean. So they carry around treats so the dogs will be nice to them, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I've never lived in a big city like New York. Maybe there's a problem with stray dogs, and when you're walking around Central Park, maybe you want to carry around some dog treats just in case, or maybe he just likes being nice to dogs. I don't know. But then this lady freaks out on him. Well, first thing, she's like choking this poor dog out, and he's like,
doggy wanted them treats. Doggy wanted them treats.
Get away from her so hard, and she just got a death grip on his collar. But then she starts saying, "I'm going to tell the police. There's an African American man here threatening my life." I'm like, okay, this is that kind of video. This is that kind of situation. Then she calls the police. And it gets.
Yeah, it's silly. I'm going to call this one a tale of two Karens, because it seems like this guy was out, and where I got that screenshot from was from a longer post. This guy was out bird watching in the park, and he didn't want loose dogs running around scaring his birds off. And so he's going to make some, I don't know if I want to call it a veiled threat to this lady and her dog, but it was certainly not what I would call a friendly, hey,
Yeah, apparently this part of the park is specifically supposed to be like a nature preserve. So that's why they don't allow like off-leash dogs, because the whole idea is this is the place you go for bird watching.
Right. And
right? He's pissed off that this lady has her dog on leash. I mean, I can get that. I can get this is like the one place in the entirety of New York City that you can do this.
Yeah.
And this lady's dog's chasing the I guess.
But then again, at the same token, the only reason that she was in this section of the park with her dog off a leash is because wonderful idiots like Bill de Blasio and Andrew Cuomo have completely locked New York City down. She said that the dog runs are all shut down because of the Wu flu. So, really who's to blame here is the idiot politicians in New York.
I mean, it isn't that who's to blame in all situations anyway.
I usually default to blaming Andrew Cuomo and Bill de Blasio for most of my problems.
I mean, it rained today, and that was a bitch, and I'm pretty sure Andrew Cuomo's to blame for that.
That's what I'm just going to call it.
I mean, and the thing that's really getting people pissed off at this is she made it a point to point out that I'm going to call the police and tell them that there is a black man threatening me. Like,
yeah,
weird thing to focus on. I mean, if he's threatening you, isn't that enough?
Well, on the one hand,
do you think the police will get there faster if they think it's a black man threatening you? And if so, that's you got a real low opinion of the New York's finest if you think that's the case.
Yeah, well, on the one hand, it's
like, ma'am,
giving a
you
description.
Telling me that, ma'am, you mean to tell me that a man's threatening you? I guess we'll be there in like 20 minutes. He's a black man. We'll be there right away.
Yeah. Well, like on the one hand, it's she's giving a description. You say a man is threatening me. Well, that's 50% of the population. Narrows it down a little bit when you say a black man in Central Park bird watching. But on the other hand, on the other hand, you have the media, which has for the past 8 or 9 years now has drilled into our heads that cops are out hunting black people for sport. So maybe she legitimately did think that telling the police that a black man is threatening her in the park would get a faster response.
She's apparently a Biden supporter, so that could very well be the case. Ironic, I know. Maybe she thought he was one of those non-black people that Joe Biden was telling her about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you intend to vote for Joe Biden? Yes. Okay, he's a black man.
It checks out. He's black.
He is. He is, in fact, a black man. Joe Biden has assured me of this.
Yes.
I mean, and that would make sense, except she told him before she was on the phone with the police, I'm going to call the cops and tell them that there's a black man threatening me. Right? Yeah. So she wasn't just giving a description then. She was telling him, I'm going to call the cops on you, and I'm going to tell them you're black, just so they'll get here faster.
They'll send their Negro hunting squad that I know they definitely have because they're cops. Or something like that.
They got them in the base. They don't talk about those guys very much. They keep that hush hush. Yeah. But the NYPD definitely has that, and they know that. She made the mistake though, because they'd recently lent that squad to the Minneapolis Police Department. They're doing their work in Minnesota right now, lady. So you're going to have to wait for the actual real cops. And they're too busy busting up churches and telling couples to social distance. They got better things to do. Speaking of churches, we don't have a lot of time, but we'll talk about this story. Have you heard about this recent Mississippi church burning that we had?
Oh, boy, Mississippi burning right after we're talking about cop malfeasance with black people. We're getting into dangerous territory.
Well, I just brought up the picture. It's Holly Springs, Mississippi, and there was a church, and they had defied the state's shutdown orders and kept having services during the COVID outbreak, and they'd actually sued the state for violations of the First Amendment, right? And not long after, an arson, it's been confirmed to be arson, burned down the church and wrote this lovely picture that you see on the ground. It says, "You hypocrites," hypocrite spelled HYPOKRITS.
But what you may not see above it is right above that, it says, "I bet you stay home next time, you hypocrites."
Yeah, it does say that. But I couldn't find a picture of the full thing. And this picture specifically got me thinking, is this another Jussie Smollett situation here?
Juicy Smouye?
Is this another Juicy Smouye? Because, I mean, this is very reminiscent of those fake swastika hate crimes. Remember those with the lopsided swastikas and the vote for Trump message very prominently spray painted on the building, just so everybody knows exactly who's guilty, right?
Until it comes out that it's the exact opposite and it was just somebody trying to get attention.
Exactly, or trying to get some insurance money, or I got to burn down my house because Orange Man bad. Oh, shit, I left my pets in there. That actually did happen, by the way.
Yep.
Yeah, some lady killed her pets because Orange Man bad. She did it for good cause.
Yep. Burned down her own house, killed like 4 pets because she was a lesbian and said that anti-gay hate crimes were on the rise. And then when no hate crimes against gays had been reported, she was just, gonna make one. That's how it works.
The supply didn't meet the demand, so she was doing her capitalistic duty, increasing the supply.
That's the American dream. That's entrepreneurship right there.
Exactly. And she would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for the fact that she was a fucking moron and completely botched everything. Right? And then this situation in Holly Springs, Mississippi reminds me of that. And I hesitate to call this a hoax because it could be real. And I can definitely see some COVID Karen out there being like, I'll teach those assholes to stay inside and burn down a church.
Yep.
I mean, I can see it happening.
Right.
But you know what? It gives me pause. This stay inside, you hypocrites, with hypocrite spell drawn. Because here's the thing. These people that make fake hate crimes, it's not enough to make their opposition look evil. They got to make them look stupid too. And that's what this is, right?
Right. And like Matt Christensen pointed out in his video on it, the "you hypocrites" looks kind of shitty, but the smaller text above it in the picture, it's in cursive, and it looks like a woman's handwriting. It's like pretty and it flows. The bottom part looks like it was, it's some sloppy bullshit that I would write. It's a heavy-handed guy text. But
I mean, maybe there were like two people there, and one two inside, and the other one's like not provocative enough.
Right. Yeah, and that's entirely possible. This might have been a multiple person job, but you make a good point that evil's not enough. Stupid and evil is usually the type of message that they try to send with it. The other possibility that I think is the K put in there is like when people spell America with a K to try and like dredge up memories of the Klan or something. So
edgy.
Yeah, so edgy. It's like putting a Z on the end of a word that should end in an S. But yeah, it's
what
like
a rebel.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's the K is evocative of, trying to dredge up thoughts of the Klan. And that is, I think, people, they spell America with a K. Sometimes they spell it with 3 Ks because it's supposed to be like some type of scathing indictment of the alt-right or whatever. But I think this might be that, rather than just let's make them look stupid, because I don't know, that's just the vibe I get off of it.
I mean, it could be a real crime. I'm not saying it's not, but yeah, it's that you hypocrites, written on the ground. Like, I was reading and it's like, wow, this is terrible. This is horrible. Then I saw that picture. I'm like, wait a second here. Is this a Karen or a
juicy? A juicy.
Is this a Karen or a juicy?
Yep. Time will tell.
It could go either way, and I thought we'd know by now, but I was looking for it today, and like they still don't know who did it. Who done it? It's the big Mississippi church burning mystery. We have one of those each week too.
Yep.
So it's definitely arson. Someone definitely burnt it down.
Obviously.
So I don't know. I don't know. The buildings burn down sometimes.
Yeah, but they don't spray paint messages on the floor when they do.
That is true. you are correct about that.
This might be that one monkey in a room full of infinite monkeys with typewriters that managed to pen Shakespeare. So maybe it just burned down in such a way that it spray painted that nice cursive message on the floor, just poof, spontaneously.
That's how you know we're in the best timeline.
Yeah.
The only timeline that happened.
Yep. There was a can of white spray paint in a desk, and when it heated up and it burst, it flopped around in such a manner to perfectly spell everything out, except hypocrites.
All right, everybody. Case closed. We solved it. We solved the mystery of the church burning.
It's just called 2020 being 2020 again.
Token and Hobbs are on the case. at the detective duo of Token and Hobbs.
Indubitably.
Oh boy, oh boy. All right, we've been talking for an hour. Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap things up?
Oh, last week's observations on Friday was unfortunately had to be rescheduled because producer Ben had some emergency stuff for work. So join us this Friday at 9 p.m. Central for part 2 of our communications primer, where we'll be joined with producer Ben and Killdeer from Patriot Wave talking about how to set up your Book Boy communications.
All right. Make sure you tune on for that. That's going to be a fun one. All right, everybody. That's it for us. We're going to call it a night. I'm tired. I got to go to bed. Thank you all for listening. Watch next week for another episode of the Token and Hobbs Show, where we're probably going to be talking about another police officer shooting another person. And just, I will just see where we're at by then. Right? We'll see how crazy the world turns in this next week. We'll see you next week. Good night, everybody.
Hang loose.